We're on a series of transformative change, talking about how people not just change, but radically become different. Something inside, way deep down in the guts, is transformed. And the counseling process is one of the ways that helps this transformation occur. It's not the only way, lots of ways to change. Let me review these 4 changes. Today we're going to be talking about the first change. Actually, what we call them shifts or movements. Years ago, I wrote a book with Dr. Joanne Shade called Transformative Change, how people change not just behaviors, attitudes, actions, and that sort of thing, but something deep within their heart becomes different. And we studied people who we had counseled and said, who really changes? And found that there are some people who are not just changed, but transformed. So the 4 shifts are from deception to honesty, and we're going to focus on that one today. How do I live in denial? A lack of awareness, a lack of willing to deal with truth, and moving to living with whatever's true. The second one is moving from the shame and blame game, where I get down on myself because I've screwed up so much, or get down on other people because they've hurt me so bad and I'm just a victim. Both are true. But how do I move out of that? Because it's a pit, and into the place of just personal responsibility. Okay, in light of what I've done and what's been done to me, who I am and who the world is, how do I live well? How do I love well? What do I challenge myself to do so that I can live a life of meaning and fulfillment and other-centered love? The third is from fear to courage. And that is, people who have really transformed often have faced horrendous losses, horrendous pain. And the price to move out of just numbness and deadness and safety, or just dullness of pleasure, into real passion, risk, growth, it takes an enormous amount of courage. So that's the first 3 shifts. The 4th shift is from pride to humility. I'll remember all these, yeah. From pride to humility. How do I even recognize pride just ruining my life, just because I've just got to see myself as better than I am, or more capable, or I should be better. I should be more. I can't believe St. Michael did that. Oh my gosh, unbelievable. To humility. I can't not be me. But that doesn't mean that God isn't deeply and powerfully at work within me to transform me from this lowly estate to something that I could never be without Him working in my life. So let's talk about the first one. Again, you may say, well, I'm a pretty honest person. I don't think I live a life of deception. Let me again say, I'm not talking about the person who is having an affair and doesn't tell his or her spouse that they're having an affair. I'm not talking about a sociopath who thrives on deception, or a politician. I'm talking about the normal human state of living a life of deception and not being willing to deal with what's honest. Look, you live in our culture, right? I mean, man, I'm going through some of the political stuff that's been going on and seeing what people believe when evidence of other realities are right in front of their face, and I'm not going to get into the politics of it. You just have to, how can you believe that? How can you, when the evidence of one thing is right there, you choose to allow yourself to live a life of deception? And let me say this to you. Remember, once I begin a deceptive pattern, I have a hard time backing away from it. I can build my entire life around deception. That's often what happens. That's often what happens in a dysfunctional family, right? We're going to pretend that, let's just say, mom or dad is just had drinks a little bit, okay? And if anybody ever asks us why some of the kids are black and blue, or why my mom seems so depressed, or why my dad has lost so many jobs, we'll find all sorts of reasons and even believe some of these reasons. It was nobody gave him a break. It was the boss. It was, just the economy. But what we won't say is that my dad was an alcoholic, or my mother was just a perpetual person who spent and put us into destitution. I won't say that. In fact, I won't even think that, because reality is often far harder for me to cope with than unreality or deception. So I often choose a path of deception that I don't even know that I've chosen. And so good counseling will often unearth paths of deception. I remember one time a person came in and he had told me about his father, who was horribly, horribly, horribly abusive. Documented stuff, legal stuff, And he finally wanted his dad to come to the counseling session with me because he was terrified of his dad. So his dad came in, we started talking, and the three of us, and after a while I started pursuing his dad and about certain behaviors, certain things he was continuing to do and had done in his life. And as I started to pursue his dad got uncomfortable. But the son started to defend him. It was amazing. What an education I got. Because he was seeing the reality of his dad being exposed and his dad being very uncomfortable with it. And the son couldn't deal with that honesty. He would rather have a dad who felt good about himself, who lived a lie, than a dad who was disrupted and falling apart. So he started attacking me. It was really fascinating. He did not want to deal with the truth. The truth is very hard. I give a story about him. I can give my own stories about how I prefer deception to reality, because deception reality can be very costly. It may require that I go through changes that will be uncomfortable. Okay, let me move from the abstract to the concrete. You remember the show American Idol? I don't know if it's still on. It probably is still on. I loved the auditions because somebody would sing, and it was very clear that they were either tone deaf or their voice was not capable of producing decent sounds, and the judges would kind of look at each other and say, I'm sorry, I don't think that we'll be able to take you to the next round. And the person would say, what? I'm an incredible singer. What makes you think that you're an incredible singer? Well, I just hear myself and I know, and people are amazed at the way I sing. And you say, how can this person live a life of deception when obviously they can't sing, but somehow they've staked their identity, they've crafted a life around deception, and it's too costly to move away from that. It's too costly. Let me give you you're familiar with this. There's a tremendous biblical example. Peter is the one who lived a life of deception, and Jesus wanted to be honest with him, and Peter just would not let him do that. So you remember the time in the upper room where Jesus said, you will all fall away from me. You're all going to deny me. And Peter said, he was up there with the 12 disciples, and Peter said, Jesus, even though everybody else leaves you, I will never leave you. I will never deny you, because I'm better than everybody else, right? That was Peter's reality. That's what he thought was true. But it was deception, because Jesus turned to him and said, Peter, this very day you will deny 3 times that you even know me. Whoa, that is truth. That's reality. He was showing light into Peter's darkness. Now, you would think if the creator of the universe is going to look in your eyes and say, I'm going to tell you the truth about you, that you would say, thank you, because you can't speak falsehood. So if you're telling me truth, it's for my benefit, because you love me and you know that the truth is something I need to know. But Peter said, even though everyone else leaves you, I will never deny you. And that was it. He had the chance to see truth, and he chose to live in falsehood. And as you know, Peter denied 3 times that he even knew Christ. He swore, he was vile, he was vulgar. And then Jesus looked at him, and Peter knew that he had failed Jesus. When Jesus gave him the chance to live in the light and the truth, he chose to live in deception. Okay, now you can say, well, that was Peter, and that was a very trying time. Yes, it was. But you and I do this again and again and again. We choose to live in deception and not in truth. So somebody who changes is open. Proverbs talks about fools and wise men. A simple way to understand that is a fool is not teachable. So if you give a fool truth that they don't want, they will. I always tell people, if you tell the truth to a fool, you better duck, because they're going to retaliate, because they don't want to hear truth. It's too disruptive. But a wise man is willing to hear whatever is true. I remember one time, I was with some people who were trying to tell me truth, and I was having a hard time to it, but I came to ask them one thing, because truth can be very costly. And I want to know that if somebody's telling me truth, that they really are for me, that they're not just try to show me my faults. And so I remember with this group of people, I said, well, if you are for me, I'm willing to hear the truth. But if you're going to give me truth to destroy me, it's not wise for me to listen to the truth, because very few of us have ever had people speak truth into our lives that are really for us. Most people have spoken truth into our lives to control us, to diminish us, to humiliate us. But how about you? When you speak truth into somebody's life, do you first check your own heart to say, I am for you. That's why I want you to know this truth. By the time somebody gets a few years behind them, they're not willing to listen to anybody's truth because they don't trust anybody. There's almost a paranoia that starts to exist. But God wants us to be open to all that is true, because Jesus said, if you know the truth will set you free. Now he's talking about him being the truth, but the principle is there. Truth will lead us to freedom. We no longer have to pretend. I don't have to pretend that I'm any better or worse than I am, that I'm any smarter or less smart than I am, that I'm any more accomplished or less accomplished, any more attractive or less attractive. I am who God made me to be. And the more I'm willing to deal with the truth of myself, the more he can use me. Well, that's just an introduction to honesty and dishonesty. Hope it's helpful for you. But you can dig into our book, or there's plenty written on this sort of thing. But just ask your own heart, am I willing to be true about what is really important to me, about what I've done? Good, bad, ugly, different. One of the goals of knowing truth is I'm willing to deal with whatever is good, bad, ugly, or beautiful that I encounter within me, within other people. And I don't have to distort any reality to conform to the way I've structured my life. The truth shall set you free. I'm Dr. Michael Mesa from North Coast Family Foundation. Look us up at northcoastfamily.com. We've got many more teachings on there, books, articles. We have blogs. We have people who are on our staff, great Christian counselors. You can read about them, or you can call us and see if you'd like to talk to us. Next time, I'm going to give a talk about the shift from shame and blame to personal responsibility. Talk to you next time.